Hey guys, how's it going? Jason here. Today I'm gonna talk about one of my favorite topics in the whole wide world, and that is food. I am hungry 24 hours every second of the day, so this is a topic that I could go on and on about. But today I'm gonna teach you how to film food videos in your own home. There's 5 key principles that I'm about to teach you today, and the best thing is you can apply these to shooting food at home or shooting food at a restaurant. I believe the best way, the absolutely best way to film food is close-up, slow motion, vibrant shots. And I just don't get why videos don't focus on it. This is such a key point when filming food because the whole main purpose of doing it is to make it look so delicious that the person watching it is salivating. So if you enjoy shooting food as much as I do, let's get going to key principle number 1. Having the right equipment. So I'm gonna split equipment into 2 parts. The first part is camera and the second part is your lens. So let's talk about your camera. What camera do you need to shoot food? Well, my answer is any camera that could shoot slow motion. Slow motion is such an important factor in shooting food because that's how you make the food look so appetizing. It looks so delicious. Whenever I see slow motion shots, I just can't resist. So look at your camera specs, make sure your camera can shoot at least 50 frames per second. Bonus points if your camera can shoot at least 100 frames per second, because that means you could really slow it down to around 25% of its original speed. Next is your lens. You want to make sure the length of your focal length is above 35 mm. Anything below that, it's considered too wide. You're not gonna get the cinematic close-up shots that you need to capture food well. Now there is a type of lenses that are really suited to shooting food, and those are macro lenses. Macro lenses allows you to focus at a shorter distance and produce more details in your image. However, if you don't have a macro lens like us, don't worry about it, you can still produce amazing content. The second key principle is getting your camera settings right. So as I mentioned earlier, when you're shooting food, you want to make sure you're shooting at least 50 frames per second or 100 frames per second. So this will really give you the flexibility to slow these shots down and make it look as cinematic as possible. For your aperture, you want to keep it between 2.8 to 7 because you want as much details in focus as possible. If your aperture is too low, you're gonna get a very shallow depth of focus. So what it means is not all the food is in detail and it's not gonna look really good. But then if your aperture is really high, that means you're gonna need a lot more light to keep the shot properly exposed. So anywhere between 2.8 to 7 is a pretty good spot. And just FYI, the lens that I'm using today is the Tamron 35 to 150 mm. I absolutely love this lens because it gives me a huge range of focal length to work with, and it just allows me to get different camera angles and different composition of the food that I'm shooting. The third key principle is doing multiple camera angles for your shoot. Imagine a video where it's just one camera angle. It might look okay, but overall, it will be quite a boring video. That's why it's so important to have multiple different angles. Doing this will make your videos a lot more engaging, and it will allow you to tell a story using camera angles. So here are some of the common camera angles that we use. Number 1 is the close-up. This one's a no-brainer because you really want to get up close to your food. Especially if it's a really cool action that you're doing, whether you're frying or cutting or simply just like drizzling some parsley over your dish. Close-ups of those actions are like chef kiss. The second camera angle is quite well known in the food community, and that's the bird's eye view. For me, I really like this camera angle because it kind of shows off all the elements on the plate. You're not gonna miss anything. So adding this camera angle in your videos is just gonna make your video pop. The third camera angle is the medium shot. This is a camera angle where you're not just focusing on the food, you're also focusing on the person that's making it. You're also showing off more of the background and the surroundings as well. This shot can give a lot of context to what setting our character is in when he's making the food. Now, the fourth camera angle is inverse shots. This camera angle gives the viewers a very unique perspective. To pull off this shot, you actually need to ignore the very first principle that I taught you today. Because for this shot, you really need a lens that could go as wide as possible. So anywhere from 11mm to 24mm will do the trick. The fourth key principle is lighting. Lighting is so important when you're shooting food. Having good lighting can make the colors of your food pop, it could create a lot more contrast in your video and ultimately making your videos more cinematic. So here in our home, we're using a studio light, the Landlight Forza 300B. These studio lights are great for lighting up shoots in your home. I definitely recommend you getting them because they could really elevate your food videos. However, if you can't really afford a studio light at the moment, you can always go with these smaller lights. Well, these are not as powerful as studio lights. They will provide some lighting for your shoots. When you're lighting up your shoot, make sure to shine the light in from the side. You never want to shine the light face on towards the food because you're not able to create any contrast, which does not make your video cinematic. When you're lighting in from the side, you're able to create shadows on the other side of the food, and that contrast is what makes a video cinematic. Throughout all our years of shooting food, we mainly just use one key studio light to light our food up, and it has worked flawlessly throughout all these years. You can see that in some of the shots that we have done here. And lastly, key principle number 5 is use sound effects. Sound effects are what makes your video more immersive for your audience. The sizzling of the bacon or the sound of the fire. It's also gonna make you hungry as well. So when it comes down to editing, I highly recommend you putting sound effects in. Now there's 2 ways to get sound effects for your food videos. Number 1 is using the in-camera audio. When you're filming, your camera's capturing audio from what's going on in front of it. So keeping that in your shot will make your videos more engaging. The second way to find sound effects is to subscribe to a music licensing platform such as Epidemic or Artlist. In both platforms, they have a huge variety of sound effects that are related to cooking. So simply download them and apply them to your shots. Alright, that's it for this video. I hope you guys learned a lot today, and I hope you guys are able to apply these key principles the next time you're shooting cinematic food videos at home. We applied a lot of these principles when we were starting out as beginner filmmakers, and this really helped us progress in our journey in becoming full-time filmmakers. So for those of you who wants to take videography more seriously and hoping to turn it into either a side hustle or something that you could do as a career, well, we're launching the Filmmaker Accelerator course next week. In this course, we'll teach you everything that we learned that transformed us from beginner videographers to full-time filmmakers. Now, this may include things like how to package up your videos, how to conduct your first sales meeting, how to run a high-end production shoot, etc. So sign up to the wait list down below, link in the description. If you like this video, give us a like and a subscribe. We also have an email newsletter which details our journey from how we went from complete beginners to now full-time filmmakers. Anyways, stay focused.